Now, the Prime Minister's under pressure over pay offers to train drivers and junior doctors. Now, that's because train drivers on LNER, so looks like they're about to settle their dispute with a 15% pay rise, are actually now organising a new series of strikes, claiming a breakdown in industrial relations and the breaking of agreements.
So they're basically saying it's a whole new strike. Hundreds of members of ASLEF are going to walk out every weekend between the end of this month for a total of 22 days.
Let's talk to research fellow at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Len Shackleton. Morning to you, Len. Look, is this right that unions are flexing their muscles, or is Labour just giving them an open door?
Combination of both of those. The unions are very streetwise, of course, and prepared to use their power when they get these opportunities. This LNER thing is a very strange business. Of course, LNER is one of the it's already nationalised. It's already part of the public sector, and it's a little bit worrying that, you know, with a total takeover of the rail companies by the government, that we're going to see more of this in the future.
What should the Labour government do about this? Clearly, they thought that if they would reasonably settle some of the outstanding strikes that were costing the country money anyway, they thought that would be the way forward. But if union after union after union is going to threaten or do strikes, then what is their way forward? How can they solve this?
Well, I think they've been rather naive. You have to recognise that very few of the people currently in government have any experience of what things were like in the past. I mean, Keir Starmer is, I think, the oldest member of the cabinet at the age of 61, and he was a teenager when the unions were at their peak in the 70s, and we had the winter of discontent and all that kind of thing. And politics says that, the Conservatives were horrible to the unions, Labour want to be sympathetic, want to help, but I think they've been very naive in sort of giving in, rolling over at their first opportunity, in the belief that this would resolve problems indefinitely. I don't think it will. I think it will encourage further problems in the future.
Do we need to look back at the early Blair years, perhaps? I mean, maybe I'm seeing it through slightly odd perspective now, but it certainly seemed like the new Labour ideal was actually reasonably Thatcherite when it came to the unions. They didn't seem to bow down to them in the same way.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, whatever, people think of them now, were very sensible in not trying to reverse the Thatcherite reforms to the labour market. They remembered the last days of the Callaghan government, which had been where the unions were just rampant, and Tony Blair was determined that we're not going to go back to that kind of thing, and he held the unions at considerable distance. He didn't really make any significant change to Thatcher and Major's reforms to industrial relations, whereas the current government, as I say, are a very considerable distance in time from the Callaghan period, don't remember it, and haven't learnt the lessons in the way that Tony Blair did.
Yeah, but I mean, you could argue as well that Tony Blair simply didn't have to face the awfulness that was faced earlier, particularly by Thatcher. She'd done the dirty work, hadn't she, already?
Well, you could say that, yes. I mean, Tony Blair was a very clever operator, and I think he was very wise to stay at some length, some distance from the unions. We shall see what happens with this lot, but they've not made a great start, I think. That's the problem.
Just to wrap up, Len, what's your prediction moving forward? Do you think the government can still get a handle on this, or are we likely to see, if not more strikes, at least the threat of more strikes in the coming months?
I think we are going to see the threat of more strikes right across the public sector. The railways or the train drivers are the vanguard of this, but I think there's plenty more to come.
OK, Len Shackleton, really good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
This is journalist Claire Muldoon and political editor at HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, and a very good morning to you.
Morning.
Claire, we're starting by looking at that Daily Mail front page. Has Labour lost control of the unions already?
Yeah, we wonder if that is quite the headline, don't we? And we wonder if, in fact, it's true. I think Labour are starting to give the unions what they want and give the workers what they want, cause nurses, teachers, junior doctors, family doctors, train guards, signallers and ticket office staff, civil servants, armed forces and police and prison officers, and of course the train drivers themselves have all been offered, and some of them have taken it, but I can't get my head around that a £69,000 a year job, working 4 days a week, 35 hours of those 4 days, and yet that's still not good enough. They're still going to strike because, as LEF have said, nope, I'm sorry, we need more, we need better conditions, or we need better timetabling. And of course, we've just heard that Border Force are going out on strike as well because of their inability to get their scheduling right in terms of their working protocols. I think this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, to be fair, we have to be clear. We have to be clear, though, that this is a separate strike to the one that they appear to be settling on. So they've settled on this one issue, and then it's just another strike.
Don't you find it extraordinary, Kevin, that when they came to an agreement, this wasn't actually mooted? You know, it has to be one of the conditions that you don't immediately go on strike over something else.
Yeah, well, I think this is specifically with LNER, isn't it? So the other one is the pay for all train drivers, regardless of what company they work for, whereas this is a specific, and this isn't about pay, this is about conditions, timetable, scheduling and stuff like that. I think it's the timing of it couldn't be worse for the government, because the day before the Transport Secretary was defending the pay award by saying we said we would end the strikes and we have done it within a month of coming to power, and then the following day 3 more months of strikes. Right.
Is it coincidental, or is it a case that unions are going, well, we can get what we want now?
Yeah, I think so.
With the LNER, as I understand it, that dispute has been going on for quite some time, and as I say, it's a separate thing. I don't think it's linked to them saying, well, we'll chance our arm now because we've already managed to bag a 15% pay rise.
But it is linked for the consumer.
Of course it is.
But as
the
far as
optic and who pays for it, the consumer and the taxpayer.
Well, exactly, that's what I mean. That's why the timing is so bad for the government, as I say, because the Transport Secretary, not 24 hours before, was saying, we said we'd end the strikes and we have, and then 24 hours later, the same union announces another 3 months of strikes.
All taxpayers pay, but they're not all consumers.
No.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing we need to realise as well. And there's the front page of the Daily Express today on the OAPs not getting their winter fuel allowance. What optic is that? Come on.
It doesn't look good, does it?
No, but that is the problem, isn't it? I mean, I was up in Scotland last weekend for a few days and speaking to my mum and dad and other family members, and they're furious at the winter fuel.
And it's colder up there.
It's colder.
It's colder up there.
You know, I mean, I think we'll probably come to that in a minute in another paper, but yeah, it's not been the easiest first 5 or 6 weeks for the Labour government. There's no doubt about that.
They've not made it easy for themselves,
Kevin.
Kevin.
That as well, yeah.
Let's touch on the Border Force thing, should we? Because that's in the Times, particularly. I think got a fair point. It's all about work-life balance, isn't it? But heck, we all have to. I mean, with the greatest of respect, getting up at 3 o'clock on a Saturday morning isn't great for work-life balance, but, you know, you want to do the job, so this is what you do.
No, well, absolutely. And the thing is, I mean, the job of a trade union is to try and get the best possible deal for their members, be it pay, be it working conditions, so they're absolutely perfectly entitled to do it. The problem for the government, though, is, as I said earlier, part of the pitch that Labour made to the country before the election was nothing works, the country's on its knees, the Tory government has run out of road, they've made a mess of everything, there's strikes everywhere, we'll come in and we'll sort it. And yet here we are, not 2 months into a Labour government, and if anything, it looks like the strike action might even be getting worse.
See it, sort it, not.
And that is a major issue for them. And
it seems so political. It's almost as though the unions are saying again, all right, you're a Labour government, but it doesn't mean we are still number one.
No, and
we will play you.
And also the fact that Labour are more inclined to maybe not give unions what they want, but certainly more sympathetic to the union demands. So that doesn't mean that the unions will just take that and go away and say, thanks very much, we won't bother you again for the next 5 years. It'll say, right, we'll pocket that, and then next year we'll come back for some more, and that is. But
I don't know where all this money's coming from. I really, really don't.
At a time when, money is thin on the ground.
Yeah, no. How can ASLEF members be announcing strike action a couple of days after they've agreed a settlement over strike action?
It was 39 hours, actually. I timed it because I was just finishing an article about, we got the strikes out of the way. We're in the third summer of strikes by train drivers. Now we've got these 1 million problems about the railways we've got to sort out. And then suddenly we're going on strike again. I literally couldn't believe it. This is a completely separate dispute to the pay dispute, which was settled very, very quickly by effectively throwing money at the problem, giving the drivers what they wanted, which was what amounts to a 15% pay rise over 3 years without any strings attached. So they managed to get that all settled. The train drivers are voting on it, but everybody assumes that it will be given an overwhelming majority. This is a separate dispute, as Anne says, about working arrangements, about relationships on the East Coast Main Line. This is LNER. It runs from London to Yorkshire, North East England and Scotland. And it's not actually just Saturdays. From the 31st of August, and that's a date we'll come back to, I think, in a minute, it will be every Saturday and Sunday until the 10th of November. 22 days, as you say, and this isn't just any old line. This is the UK's flagship railway line at a time when so many people, whether they're families, whether they're holiday makers, whether they're students, absolutely depend on that line. And it was quite interesting to see how Louise Haigh, the Transport Secretary, reacted, which is, this sounds terrible. They really must talk to each other. LNER sort it out. She doesn't have to go very far to find the people who are running LNER because it's her office. The Department for Transport actually controls LNER. So it's not this great narrative that's been playing out all the way through the election campaign. Privatised companies, they're terrible. This is one which is already in public ownership.
Which makes all this sound political. Is there a real problem with LNER that does need to be sorted out? Or is this the union flexing its political muscle here?
There's a couple of things, and I think both of those are right, actually. There are clearly at LNER, because they've had rather more conflicts within that train operator than others, there are problems which I think need to be addressed. And of course, LNER says, we haven't been bullying anybody. We're talking to them and we're going to get this sorted out. But there's very, very bad blood, toxic industrial action there. But it's also, I think, there's a political aspect, which is that, look at that. That was easy. We got 15%. What are we going to go after now? We are, and this is the mindset. And we also heard, of course, Mick Lynch of the bigger rail union, the RMT, saying, they've just got 15%. That's more than we got. Where's ours, please? And the sense
they've settled, haven't they?
They settled, but now they're coming back for more because, understandably, you're a guard and you're thinking, well, hang on, I can't remember the exact percentage, but let's say 13%. The guy at the front, or the woman at the front, has got 15%. I'd like some more, please. And I think we're going to perhaps see more of that. And there is this sense which the rail unions have always had, which is that the railways are too important to fail. If you just keep striking long enough, you will get what you want. And, that seems to have played out. But ultimately, I have done the working on this, £240 per second being paid by the government, by taxpayers, to keep a pretty ramshackle railway going. I think taxpayers, people who'll be watching this, never go near a train, some of them. They're thinking, how much are we paying and what are we getting? It's a tough time.